There we go. Now we are
All
live.
right.
So we
Awesome.
are on what they call the World Wide Web. So they say. So
This is awesome, man.
yeah, it's awesome. So we'll chit chat for a second before we start seeing people pop
Yeah.
on. But
Right on.
so this house that you're in right now, right, is not your home.
Yep.
It's a friend's home.
Nope. Yep. So this is my coworker, and he's been away with his family in the States for a little while. They just celebrated the birth of their second kid. It's a little boy. So yeah, super pumped for them. But yeah, early morning here, so I wanted to be out of the house so my family could sleep. So borrowing his kitchen counter.
So you are we have some people popping on. I'm not sure who's watching live, but
Right
we got a good a couple people on already. But so let's talk about that. We are actually talking to you. You're out in the jungle in Papua New Guinea, right? And we talked about doing this. Right. We talked about doing this a few weeks ago, but you said that you're getting a new satellite where your internet would be even better. Right.
Yeah. Right. So we were just getting some parts we had to upgrade, and yeah. So this is the first thing we've done live since that upgrade, and yeah, it's pretty awesome that I could be in the middle of the jungle, like rainforest jungle, middle of nowhere. Google Maps doesn't even really show anything beyond that one zoom point, and yeah, we can be talking about karate and the Bible and all that. That's pretty insane.
Yeah. I when we first decided to go ahead and do this, as Brandon Kemmer's just saying hi to you. I see that he just gave us a comment that he's online. When we first talked about doing
Brandon?
I was like, wow, is it amazing what technology is a double-edged sword, right? Because me, I really liked not having technology when I grew up, but then again, here in the pandemic and everything else like this, or you being able to even talk to your family from out in the middle of the jungle, can you imagine what that may have looked like, just even 10 years ago?
No, that's right. I mean, there's missionaries that have gone before us. There's church planters and Bible translators that went before us. That, I mean, they had to send mail. They had to send, snail mail to communicate what was going on. So 30 days later, your family's reading what happened a month ago, and who knows what's happened since then. But no, man, this has been a super privilege to be able to have this type of a technology at this time. I mean, my hands are way too soft to be one of those pioneer missionaries, So, this has been a fantastic privilege for sure.
Right. You say that your hands are too soft, but as you come walking out of the jungle with your bananas and probably wrestling alligators and snakes. So yeah, it's just a different living for sure. So I'll introduce you now. So we got a lot more people online here listening. So
very cool.
This is Justin Rees. He's my number. I think you said number 38 black belt, correct?
38.
You are in my top 100, and which means I was your main instructor. Probably you probably had me for all classes, and I think people may not know, but I started at Rocky Peak with my brother and Ken Knight as a ministry, to do martial arts as a ministry. And I know that your family was going to, actually it was called Faith Mountain at the time. And then it changed to Rocky Peak. Right. And believe it or not,
I remember those Faith Mountain patches.
Man, I still have one, dude. It's on our patch wall.
Those are so
right?
Sweet.
And that was something, Ken Knight, rest his soul. He's the one that designed that. And so, awesome. This is where you guys started in your karate, and then after a few years of being up there, I made a decision with Mr. Knight that the program was growing so big that we had to decide to move it, and it started my dream. And your family happened to follow me when I opened. So this is in that. Go ahead.
Yeah, that man, I mean, I was 4 years old when I met you. I'm 36 now. And I mean, you mentioned Ken Knight. I mean, if you weren't the scariest dude that I met at 4 years old, he definitely was. I mean, he would do that knuckle punch to that board.
That's right.
Board break that he would do. And I mean, that guy was like, just stood in awe and wonder in front of my little 4-year-old eyes, but man, yeah, 1989 started with my 6 other siblings. I'm one of 7. I'm number 5. And, yeah, man, it was the start of a love of martial arts when I was 4 years old, and being able to be on those mats that we had to hook up every week. We had to connect them because they Velcroed together, and then we would pack them up and put them in those cases. And oh man, those days were so formative for sure. Yep.
Yeah, I remember, and it was a blessing to be up there. I should do another podcast about how I actually started there with my brother at another time. But, this is where you guys did. We moved down to Lassen and DeSoto, and you guys were all homeschooled. So you were at the studio. I mean,
we were the studio rats for sure all the time. And, that was really incredible. Man, I remember, you had opened the doors to that studio, and it became a little bit of a haven, a little bit of a safe place for me, for sure, as a kid. And man, I was in martial arts for a good reason, man. I had a little attitude. I was kind of a little punk kid, and it was something that impacted me then. Training in martial arts, eventually getting my black belt, but it impacted me then, and these things have had ramifications and huge impacts on my life, even going forward into the career that I'm in right now, for sure. So, man, I definitely needed the martial arts at that age,
Well, I remember you and Justice Coleman were 2 peas in a pod, and having a little attitude. I guess that's a nice way of saying it.
Oh man, you actually I got in so much trouble that you made me wait 6 months to test for my black belt. My sister was testing for her black belt. My buddy, Master Brandon Kemmer, he was, or is he a master yet? Maybe he's not a master.
No, he is.
Maybe I just.
Yeah, okay, he is.
So he was testing for his black belt. We were all 3 right there at the same time, and got in some trouble. And you made me wait 6 months, and the day after I got my black belt, 6 months after those guys, you took my black belt away for a month. I tried to make somebody do push-ups on the mat because I was a black belt, and then I heard you yell at me from your office, "Get in here." And you're like, "Were you just telling that guy to do push-ups because you were a black belt?" And then you yanked my black belt for a month. So, it didn't even change after I got my black belt that quickly. I was a slow learner. How about that?
Well, I remember those days, and I think you're given some. You get to talk about that. But Brandon's, as a matter of fact, he's testing again for a 6. You can tell because he's got all these little stripes on his belts. It's not what I do, but that's what he does.
I heard,
you know what I mean? That way you can tell what rank he is when you see him. Yeah. He has them actually embroidered in.
Embroidered on. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what Brandon say? Is that why you didn't get your black belt with me? Very interesting. Yeah. Well, people, you had the very hardcore Mark Cox. I can tell you that for a fact. I didn't have you watched Michael when he was born. This is how long you've been around me, right? I think you were around when Michael was actually born. So you had me in my prime, competing hard, no children, no real dad experience. So you had me at the hardest and not really back then. Parenting was even different. I mean, the parents had no problem with me failing students or taking belts or anything of that sort. Matter of fact, they were hoping that kind of stuff would happen. So it's just such a different dichotomy now than what it was back then. And I know that you were right in the middle of it. And it doesn't make, you can ask Bo DeRocher, right? I made him wait too for 6 months in his red belt and I was raising him in my house and his grades or something like that wasn't up to par, and I just made him wait, and probably same with you. But here's the thing too about young men like you, and this is why I've always kind of gravitated towards maybe what you call the rebel, the troublemaker, however you want to say it. To me, that's all leadership. That's just what that is to me. And so I've always kind of gravitated towards them because I was the same way. I was the rebel. I was the one that stepped out in my own family. So I always kind of gravitate to there because there's a huge leadership skill. And then look where you are today. You've always had kind of an entrepreneur spirit, and then off to these ministries that you're doing out in. And if people don't know, you're out in the middle. Like when you say you're out in the middle of the jungle, you have to take an airplane on a landing strip, you told me. Then you have to take this little boat with all your supplies for a 6-hour drive on this little outboard motor up a river. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're in the middle of the East Sepik region. So the island of New Guinea is the second largest island, maybe to Greenland. It's the second largest island in the world, and there's over 800 languages on this island, and I'm working in one of them. I work in one language, and we are in the middle of the swamp rainforest where you jump on a little airplane, you land in a little airstrip that's in the middle of nowhere to get onto a boat to get your groceries into the middle of nowhere, which is where my house is. So we are stinking smack dab in the middle of the jungle. So
I find it fascinated about how that came about. So we'll dabble into that in a second on just how you guys live, but let's talk about where you decided, because after a while, you see, we talk about it, your martial arts, how it's kind of carried through. I believe you were doing some other stuff. How did it come about that you decided, hey, I'm going to be a missionary and in the middle of the jungle, and I'm going to take my wife and my family, and we're just all going to go live in the middle of the jungle, and we're going to give up this life of America, how spoiled we really are.
Yeah. Well, let me go back. I want to go back to old school Mr. Cox. I want to go back to because I think this is where some of this stuff started. You were tough. You were hard on us, and for me, it was what I needed. It was like that was the attitude I needed. That was the pretty much the discipleship that I needed at that point. And there were some things that you did. For instance, you would take every Christmas, you would take a group of us kids to the Shriners Hospital. It was a burn hospital for children. Mm-hmm. And we would go and do karate demonstrations. We would break boards. We would turn on some music and do forms, and we would do choreographed fight scenes and one steps. And those were so formative because especially for me and my family, because we were learning to serve people. And we were doing it kind of under your tutelage, right? I mean, you were facilitating the opportunity to do that. And then afterwards, we would go in and we would pass out presents and candy cane, and we'd sign broken boards. And for these kids who are going through pain, man, I mean, these are burn victims recovering from major trauma. And those were the beginnings of some of these, of some of what was happening in my life. Because by the time I got my black belt with you, my second degree black belt in 2002, I was getting ready to graduate high school, and there was a yearning kind of in my soul, kind of this calling to be serving people. I had grown up in the church. I had grown up at the church at Rocky Peak, and for years and years and years, I had heard this message that Jesus loved the whole world so much that he gave his life for those who would believe in him. And as I started to learn how big the world was, sure, I mean, this chat that we're doing right now has just shrunk it down. I'm literally 8,000 miles away from you on the opposite side of the world. So it's small in that regard, but it's a massive, massive place. And the more and more I started learning, the more and more I started being convicted that, even in high school, I wanted to go to a place that had never heard about Jesus's love. I wanted to go learn a language that had never been learned by any outsider. And I wanted to translate that message and translate eventually the New Testament and portions of the Old Testament, the Bible, into that language, and then continue discipling. So really, that started in my senior year, and I met my wife in high school. I met her in 10th grade, and eventually we started dating after high school for about a year, and we were married by 20 years old, and began training to become church planters and Bible translators. And in 2011, we actually set foot in New Guinea. So that was kind of the start of it. Yeah.
2011 is when you set foot. I remember you coming to talk to me about this. And, you have this entrepreneur spirit. You probably could have decided to have a living where you're super comfortable and quite make a living. But I guess God had different plans. And obviously, we got to talk about your wife, because it takes a special kind of woman to say, okay, I'm going to go in the jungle with you, and we're going to raise our kids there. Correct?
Yeah, right. Yeah, my wife, Lauren. She had just graduated Paul Mitchell, the hair school in Orange County, when I actually pitched the idea to her that I think she needed to be a missionary. I had heard all throughout high school that she, from her mouth, that she had this love for the Lord. She was very, faithful to the Lord through high school. She just had a very strong spirit, and it was really incredible to watch. And she goes to hair school, and she graduates, and she gets this job out in Calabasas, California. And the first thing she's told is like, "Hey, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics." And here in her heart, she's like, all I want to do is talk about what God's done in my life. And, she told me that, and I challenged her. I said, "Hey, I think you need to be a missionary." And she knew what I was saying. She knew I was saying, you need to go somewhere where you're going to be able to tell people about the love of Christ. I kind of snuck in there that I should go with her, that I should be a missionary with her. And she bit on that hook for sure. But no, dude, she's incredible. She's super special. Like, if anybody knew us in our past life, they knew we were way more comfortable in a city. We were way more comfortable at a shopping mall. We way more comfortable, getting manicures and pedicures on our dates together and going shopping together. We didn't like the outdoors. We don't like the outdoors to this day. But what we've seen the Lord do even here in Pei since 2011, we would do it all over again. I was just telling you, we're in my friend's house, my coworker's house here, and when you're absent from your house, the jungle just takes it back over. So there's centipedes, and there's scorpions, and there's rats, and there's snakes, and evidence of them all over the place. And I heard my wife talking to her mother last week, and she was telling her about the rat infestation at our house. And I was just shaking my head like, man, she is such a stud. She is such a stud. She's just taking this. And of course, my mother-in-law is probably mortified, right? But I mean, hey, like, you take the good with the bad out here. And I'll tell you what God is doing here is far more good than the tough stuff that we see. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's important that we hear that from you, because I know, talking to you like we do, that you sacrifice a lot, and we live a very spoiled life here in America. When you start listening to what you're doing out there, there's a couple of people that you might want to say hi to.
Yeah.
There's a Mrs. Jonesy's watching.
All right, Evie,
and
glad to see that you're on. That's my coworker's wife. That's actually her house I'm living in right now. So she's probably.
And this is Calvin Cook. He said he's watching and listening.
Calvin, awesome, Mr.
Brandon
Calvin.
Kemmer,
he's from very good friend from Texas. Yep.
Yeah. Brandon said massive respect for you. He kind of remembers back in those days of the the Shriner hospitals and stuff like that. I've always had kind of a heart for those that are not like not like others, or disabled or hurt or anything. I've always had a heart for that. I don't like seeing them not having. I think when you said that, it kind of just brought back some memories of some other stuff. And I don't know if I ever told you this one memory of that after you reminded me of that I went to a children's hospital one time and I dressed as Santa Claus that particular night, and it was Christmas Eve. This is a few years back. And a mom came to me and says, "Can you hold my baby and let me get a picture, because we don't think it's going to make it." And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I remember holding that baby that night, dressed in a Santa thing, and they got that picture and I remember holding it, and I remember praying for that baby. Lord, let me leave here and just, do your things, man. Okay. Now I never knew, I don't know if the baby made it or not, but it just brought up a memory thinking about that. And remember those poor kids in the burn center when they have those kind of balloons in their face so their skin can heal. Man, it was brutal, man. Yeah. It was brutal. So, yeah, thanks for bringing up that memory. Your mom's on.
Yeah.
She goes, hey guys, Johnny and other siblings are watching. Love you both.
Awesome.
So your mom's on watching.
Ma, love you.
So
that lady's a stud too. She put up with a bunch of my rebelliousness.
Yeah.
And, I was gonna say, like, that these memories that you put us in positions as young kids to be able to love people and serve people. You put us in positions to be able to getting our black belt. It wasn't a right. It wasn't something that we were deserving of. It was this privilege that we earned, and it was definitely a different time. I taught martial arts after I taught at your school for a little while. I went and did some Taekwondo and taught at a Taekwondo school, and definitely there was a different vibe about all those things. But when it came down to it, though, it was a awesome opportunity for me to be able to take so much of what you taught me as a little kid and what you taught me as a young teen, and be able to implement that into my teaching. It made me a better teacher. You talk about the entrepreneurship. I mean, I got that from you 100%. Hey, if we can do it, we're going to do it, and man, like, and just that attitude, just that mentality, how that plays out here in the jungle, where I don't got a hardware store, I don't got a grocery store, I don't got anything near me, so if something breaks, if something goes down, I'm not a carpenter, but guess who has to fix houses if they break? Me. I'm not an electrician, but when our solar panel, when our solar system goes down, who's got to fix it? I'm not a plumber, any of these things. So, in a lot of ways, these lessons that you exposed me to as a kid, man, they're following through, and super appreciative of that. And, and love for people is not on the bottom of that list either, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You give me a lot of acclimates, dude, but you're out there doing it, showing people what's up. And, a lot of people talk about it. You're out there making things happen, and, doing God's work, being the warrior that you are. It's always awesome that I tell her, and in the martial arts and how awesome it is. It's the punching and kicking is so little about what it really is. Okay. And the life lessons, about what I take out of here, or what I've taken from fighting, or what I've taken where I've made mistakes. I've made some serious mistakes, and what things to say. I'm reflecting back at you saying that your wife was told not to talk about God and politics. Now, politics, I get,
right.
The politic thing I get, right, because it's such. But when somebody tells me, not to talk about God or where, we're going to have a problem with that. You know what I mean? That's right. Not going to happen. Right. And you remember, I used to have the 10 Commandments in the Bible. I have that thing. Cool. I'd have Proverbs up there, and I would speak about that. And even recently here, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I have, when you come into my school, I've got, you know how I am. I'm a pretty patriotic dude, and I've got this, this, Lord bless this, this place. And I had somebody say, you need to separate church and state or something. I'm like, man, I ain't the government, bro. This is not, this is more of a dictatorship. You don't like it, man. Don't let the door hit you or the Lord split you, bro. You got to go.
Man.
And I remember that, and it's just, I don't know. It was great. I think your sis is on here. She's right. Second that you taught us
a good old family reunion right here, man.
Yeah. Well, they all get to see you. So.
Hey, dude, and like to even to that, I knowing that our karate instructor, knowing that the guy that like the guy that was our number 2, that was our coach, the one that was going to be in there, that was encouraging us, knowing that you were a believer, knowing that your family, we're believers, knowing that, where you came from. And man, that was totally invaluable. We were operating from the same starting point. It wasn't like, a coach who isn't a believer that's not operating from the same starting point. Maybe he wants you to be better for, for the accolades that you could get. Maybe he wants you better for the world championship that the USKL championship that you could win. You were wanting us to be better for a different reason. You were wanting us to be better so that we could affect change in our futures. You were wanting us to be better so that we could affect change in the lives of others and those around us. And that's a completely different. That's a completely different, starting point and a completely different aspect. And it was something that again, it is something that's changed my life forever. Probably out of all my siblings, I ended up staying with you probably the longest. And
you did. We have a special bond for sure.
Yeah. And it didn't matter it didn't matter what year I came back. It didn't matter, what phase of the missionary training I was in. And I could holler at you and be like, yo, can I come roll on the mat? Can I come get in some classes? Man, I got to mention him. I got to mention Master Carlin. This is a guy, that, and this is a guy that I looked up to so much my whole life. There were tons of them. There were tons of guys that came through and got black belts, and they were studs too. But Master Carlin, without a doubt, that guy has had an influence on probably tens of thousands of kids, over the years. And, every time I come back, that guy is shockingly even better than the last time, I was in there rolling around, and he just makes me feel like, 6, 7, 8-year-old kid all over again. So,
well, he's a little different now. He's a little softy now because he's got himself a little girl.
That's so bizarre. You guys changing with all your kids.
I told myself, I'm like, man, I'm getting soft. What is up with me? Right. And, because, it's, me, you guys know me, you've been around me a long time, but I'm always like, man, when I'm teaching these kids and these kids don't even know how to wrestle with each other, I'm like, man, don't you guys jack each other up at home with your brothers, or, you can't touch each other. And when I got to teach you how to grab, to teach you how to defend, oh my gosh, you know that I'm losing my mind. Right. And I've always been partial to the girls anyway. They start their tears rolling. You guys, I'd be like, man, you guys just shut your mouth. Yeah, well, Siobhan always had my heart.
Bosch, man.
Yeah, Bosch had my heart from the day one, but that's just the way she always was. You know what I mean? I was really close to her. And it's funny to see me come back with, as she's a grown woman now, with her mom of all her kids
family.
and get to spend time with her when I was in San Diego. It was awesome. So, your whole family had a huge impact on me. You guys went through a very dark stage of my life. And believe it or not, your mom was super instrumental in those dark times. Just so you know, I don't know if I ever got to tell your mom that one time, but maybe I should have a more one-on-one talk with her about that. But as I'm listening to what it even, facilitates how important these martial arts schools are, not just martial arts schools, but these instructors that can take this and go out to the real world with it and change lives. And then to watch somebody like yourself, number 38, getting out there and getting after it. Let's tell. Now listen, yes, and I'm a believer in all that, but I kind of tread that line. My brother's the one that kind of walks on water. I more tread it. But
right.
You would, so, which is great, right? Because you can see, even if the Lord loves a guy like me, how awesome is that? Because he is definitely
Right.
after the broken and
Right.
and the knotheads, which
Right.
which I was one. But so you're getting ready. Remember, we're getting ready to launch this, right? So let's tell everybody what we do to raise money.
So in 2011, my wife and I we've graduated Bible college, we've graduated missionary training school, learning how to learn language, learning how to teach literacy, and we're raising support. We're raising funds to build a house in the middle of a jungle, which fortunately they're still standing. And the idea comes across, that we need to get a missionary and a pastor in a cage fighting. And it just so happens that you had Justice Casey Coleman, who was launching a church there in Chatsworth at the same time. So we did pastor versus pastor in a cage, full contact fight. And dude, it was spectacular. It was awesome.
This place was packed out. My son fought that night. We had a bunch of fights, right?
Martinez, right?
Yeah. Right, yeah. And then
Joseph
you guys
Moore showed up. The Prager, Master Prager showed up. Bondarenko showed up. That was incredible.
Michael's there, and I mean, this place was packed out to raise money. And we had, I think it was team. What was it? Is it Team Freedom and Team Papua New Guinea?
Freedom, Tribe or Die.
Tribe or Die, right? Right. That's right. And so we had Tribe or Die or Freedom. And we know who won.
We know who won. We don't even need to say what happened. But I hope Justice watches this on a replay and see him show up live. This may have been why, but no, man. Hey, listen, Freedom Church has been so good to us. They loved us. I got to tell you, that night we raised about $10,000 to help buy airfare and building materials for us out here in the jungle. Believe it or not, it's really expensive to get building materials to the middle of nowhere. Who'd have thunk? But we ended up raising some great money that night for us. We raised some good money that night for Freedom Church, and all said and done, I think I choked him out in the first round. But I don't really remember. It was,
well, we all remember, and we're gonna make sure that Mr. Coleman. We know that we always remind Mr. Coleman who won that fight, because after his backflip in the beginning, and then he get choked out. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's called humble.
With the rear naked.
He hates it. He's hating it if he's listening right now. You hate it, bro.
I love it.
And
I love it.
But what an awesome thing, right? That we all get to come together. Remember, we were selling front row seats. I mean, it was an actual fight. We had cameras on. We had TVs in the other room, and this place was rocking and rolling. And we were fighting for the Lord. And Warriors in the Cage, man.
There's a whole group of guys that made that night as well. I mean, it was Alex Bondarenko. He got in there and fought. Joseph Moore showed up. Prager fought Joe Moore on 8.5 minutes notice.
Right.
And, it was, man, it was just so cool. Mr. Martinez, your son, Mr. Cox. And, man, it was just so fun to be able to see those guys. Super appreciative of them. And it was super fun. So, man, I'll tell you what, since then, we've continued to work. We moved here in 2011. We moved to this location, this language group, in 2012, and we've continued to work with that same fight, with that same vigor, with that same drive, here in the jungle too. So, just to see this work continue on, so.
Tony Gray
kicked off
Tony Gray's on right now. You remember Tony
Gray, man.
He says that's the Justin. That's the Justin I know.
Yeah, there you go.
It's funny, man, every time I do these, man, and all the all my old black belts that pop up online in the stories, and I am so stoked that I got to be part of your guys' lives. You don't even know, because when you're in the middle of things, when just like you are, dude. The impact that you're having right now, you don't even know the impact you're having. To be honest with you, you don't. And then when you hear a little bit of, because most of the time everybody's always good on. You can do good for your entire life, and you do one thing bad, and that's what you're remembered for. You know what I mean? Sure. And this cancel culture that we have today is even worse than it makes everything worse. It makes it you can't make a mistake without it being hung over your head forever and a day, and you can't grow from anything, and it's just disgusting as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? Because if I couldn't learn from my mistakes, man, I don't know what it would have looked like. And then just to see all you guys, Brandon, all you guys, man, it's just awesome to watch what kind of men, which makes it even more important. I know, how important it is to have strong men mentor these young guys, man. Okay. Sure. And as important as moms are, man, we need to have some strong men that are willing to stand up for what's right. And so it's good to see you're carrying that on now as you're a father, yourself. So let's,
go for it.
Go ahead, sir. You go.
I'm totally with you on that. And for me, looking back, I mean, even seeing Tony Gray pop up, Tony was right ahead of me on testing day. I tested with him and got my black belt with him. And he was one of those guys that, I aspired to be like, and it's those guys that are just a little bit ahead of you, that are willing to bring you along, that are willing to put a little bit of effort and care, that really that discipleship process and we definitely need dudes discipling dudes. That's not even a question. We need to see that in the church. We need to see that, in the local community stuff, in local sports, and the local martial arts centers. And Mr. Cox, I'm sure you wanted to see every one of your black belts stick with this and stay with you and be under you. But you got to know that the time and energy and effort that you poured into us, whether we stayed with you or not, dude, I'm doing something that no one in the world has ever done. Learn the Pefiyahe language, right?
That's awesome, right?
Like nobody has ever come to Pay Village and learned the Pefiyahe language, with the exception of my coworkers. But I mean, you were instrumental in instilling the self-discipline that would be required to learn an unwritten, undocumented language. And we'll probably go into more of what is exactly going on here, but yeah, go with what you were going to say.
Yeah.
Man. So.
Well, listen, I know you like to give me a lot of acclimates, dude. I'm glad I gave you the foundations that you have. I do have a no quit attitude. And if something, you know how I am, if something's in our way, we're either going to mow it down, or we're going to learn how to tackle that whatever that beast is. And, everybody wants to be a beast until they have to do beast things, right? And I'm not, and for me to be able to even think about going out doing what you're doing, I'm like, man, you've given up everything. You've moved away from your family. You've moved away from America and what you're doing. So I think that when you decided to do this, when you came to me and you were talking to me about it, because I know you were really bummed about. There's things that you were bummed that you're going to have to leave, right? And I remember us having this talk. I'm like, man, bro, it is what it is, man. You got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And you got to fight the good fight when it comes time. So we talk about, we've learned these lessons in martial arts, courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and dominant spirit. I've ran that into your guys' head. Born to win, move forward. What's a warrior have to have? Purpose. What's a warrior's purpose? To build a more peaceful world. Where do you start that? In your heart. How do you start it? With focus. I mean, I drilled this stuff into you guys, right?
Sure.
And it's not just drilling into you. This is what I drill into me. And hopefully it just, it continues to carry on, because there's always this little voice, right? In the back of your head saying, you can do this, you can move forward, or you can't. We got two kinds of voices. I say it all the time. I got to keep it G-rated here, but we got a beast voice and we got a little B voice, right? And you're either going to listen to the B voice or the beast voice and continue your rocking through. So you've taken these lessons, these mental lessons. Let's talk about the self-defense portion. So I know you're out in the jungle, and we're talking about, yeah, you're living by the Nile and you and everything else that you're talking about, but you've had people wanting to lop your head off or beaten women or trying to kill them, and that you've had to defend. Yes or no?
Without being disparaging, yeah, there have been some tense situations in here, and the women do not have the same rights here as men do. And if a husband decides that he wants to, accelerate the situation, there have definitely been times that I've been involved. Papua New Guinea is an incredible country. It's super loving and fun. But you got to realize that there are many places like where we are in these tribes that are that we live in, that a worldview of pure animism, and animism being the idea that they attribute spiritual life and spiritual meaning to inanimate objects, and their whole world is described by the manipulation of spirits and how those spirits can affect their health and their wellness and their well-being. And it's a really fear driven culture. And so if something happens, oftentimes women are blamed for it. Women who don't have husbands, or women who don't have brothers, they're often blamed for it. And they definitely get singled out, and the violence that can happen against them is not, unreported even in the news today. So no, I've definitely had to step in to certain situations, and had I not had a background in martial arts, had I not had a training to learn how to control that adrenaline rush, learn how to defend against machetes or spears or axes, it could have ended a little differently if I didn't keep a cool head. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some tense situations in here. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. It's not, it's not dissimilar to what goes on when, folks are overseas and they see cultural differences. It's not dissimilar to like what goes on inside you trying to, right those wrongs. But in a lot of ways, I've had to do it very thoughtfully, very culturally sensitive. So, it's gotten dicey at times.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard these stories. So, and what it is, and that's the thing about martial arts. Everybody asks me this question quite often. Why do you spend so much time? I spend so much time because in that one moment that I need it, that 1 second, that 5 seconds that I need it, is going to be worth the thousands upon hours that I trained on this one thing. Right. And so, you're not
lying. And it's got, when you need to access that, it's got to come back from, memory. And the only way that you build that muscle memory, the way that you build that for your body to react is to practice it. And, man, you used to say, hey, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And sometimes you're going to be able to perfectly practice. Sometimes you won't, but you got to take a shot at it, And yeah.
It's good. Well, I wanted people to get a real gift of what what it is that you are actually out there doing. So the picture I chose, you're kind of walking out of the jungle, and it looks like you have some bananas or something that you're carrying, right? And I know now you said you've kind of gone more to a vegetarian type diet, but I guess even so, I guess you were using keto to lose some weight even out in the jungle, right? And
so we came home. So in the past 10 years, we've been home for a combined 18 months. So we've only been in America for 18 months, but every time I go back to America, I buy right back into the American diet. And the last time I was home, I was almost 200 pounds. And you had told me you were doing keto. I'd been following you in your journey, which is unbelievable and inspiring, by the way.
and folks that are looking to, be encouraged in fitness and health and weight loss, man, I would encourage them to jump on and follow you. But my wife, my wife is very much a stickler for the rules. She's not quite the rebel. And she got an app and, put me on a keto diet following my macros. I did the full 3-day fast to get my body jump started. And within 6 weeks, I was down 55 pounds. And right now I'm sitting around 148, 150. And but since then, we've actually changed our diet regimen and our nutritional regimen we've been doing vegetarian, plant-based only. And but man, my whole family feels good. My babies are eating veggies and fruits for the first time really in their whole lives really. So we've been on this journey for about 1.5 years, and we all feel great and doing really well with it. And super encouraged by the way that my wife is, again, just spectacular in the way that she's able to, she plans for, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks at a time for supply runs. Like how many dried beans do we need this month? And, how many boxes of powdered milk are we going to get? And, almond milk, I should say, because we're not doing real milk anymore. But anyway, she's just a stud, and she, she's planning these things. She's got monthly meal schedules, weekly meal schedules, daily meal schedules. She's got everything charted out, and she's pretty incredible. So that's been going really
so
well.
What is it like for the tribes and stuff like that? What's their diets like? You changed that. What is it they do? I mean, are we eating off the land? What's their source
so
of?
we live in an agrarian hunter-gatherer hunter-gatherer culture. And so they are living off the land. I mean, we have a river right by us, so they're fishing in that every single day. We have huge crocodiles, so they get a crocodile maybe once a month. We've got a lot of wild boar in our swamps here, so they get wild pig maybe once a month as well. We don't, but they definitely eat a lot of planted fruit planted food, and lots of greens. There's a starch out here called a sago palm, and they process this food, and that is their primary staple in their diet. And calorically, it is packed with calories. So, they basically live in a level of ketosis to a degree because their fat is so low in their diet. So these guys are just shredded. They look like they're cut out of stone. And so, but they're constantly packing in these, these carbs and these calories that end up turning into these sugars, right? So, but when they get these pigs, when they get these crocodiles, when they get this source of fat and meat, man, it's just kind of like a feast or famine type deal. They'll go out to their gardens, they'll gorge themselves, and they'll come back to the village and kind of starve for a week or two, and that's just kind of the cycle that they go back and forth doing.
So intermittent fasting is something they do. Intermittent fasting is something they automatically do. they have no choice.
I mean, maybe you're eating twice a day. They might eat twice a day. They might eat something in the morning, a little, again, that sago starch. It might give them, one of their little pancakes they make. And, my family, when we came in here, we wanted to live as similar to the people as we could while still accomplishing our task, which our task was to learn language, teach them how to read and write their language, translate portions of the Old Testament and the entire New Testament, and teach them systematically from the start of the story of the Bible to the end. And when we came in here, we had to just decide that we were going to do it as best we could, and as similar as we could, but we still had to stay here for the long term. So we fly in an airplane once every, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, something like that, with supplies, and everything else we try to supplement. And in order to do that, if they're bringing us pumpkin, or if they're bringing us bananas, or if they're bringing us greens, we're trying to help them with practical trade goods, whether it's a gas lighter. I mean, how do they start their fires out here? Like the gas lighter, or we do fish hooks and fishing line. We do soap. We trade with them, all kinds of stuff to help them, just in their day-to-day practical needs, whether it's batteries. So, around here, you're going to see people wearing polo shirts, and you're going to see solar panels, and you're going to see batteries. Those are newer. There's even an outboard motor or two in our village that the people have bought. So you'll see that. But I mean, they're still using Stone Age tools to process that sago starch, which is their primary form or their primary staple in their diet. So it's a really weird dichotomy that we're in. We're in this really weird world where we're merging the new with the old, it's pretty incredible to see, and it's been incredible to be a part of.
Just a different life, man. Just a different life. I'm glad you're able to kind of give some feedback. Heather Joyner's from here. You remember Heather from Rocky Peak?
Yeah.
Carrie Bell is on here. You remember her from Rocky Peak?
Carrie, yeah.
And then Benjamin from Germany is saying hello to you right now.
Okay, yeah.
So we got people from Germany listening.
Awesome, Ben Full,
pretty awesome.
Perfect.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we got into this. So you got your health and how you changed that, and I thought one good thing also. Now it's not like like you said, you have to be kind of the mechanic and you have to be Mr. Fix-It and stuff like that. But you also, I don't know, how does the medical thing happen in villages? Is there somebody that is medically trained, or hey man, when things come up, because your family's gotten sick too, whether it's with malaria, I think you said, or what did they catch? Right.
Malaria. My boy got pneumonia the other day. My wife has had dengue fever.
So how does the doctoring work in this thing? Is this on you? Do you guys already have supplies that you have come in that is going to work? Have you helped the village with medicine because of you being there? How does that look?
Yes, to all of it. So we're part of an organization. There's about 200 missionaries here on the field, and we serve with an evangelical organization, and there's a medical clinic here in the country with doctors that have been serving with this organization for 20 plus years. And so whenever we need to bounce stuff off of them, we have that ability, whether it's addressing things in our own house or in the village. There is a trained village aid worker that lives downriver about 15 minutes. So we try to, when there's something that comes up in the village with the people, we try to get them down to him as quick as possible, because he's really, really good, and he's got some really good resources. If it's trauma, if it's knife cuts, if it's pig attacks, if it's shot with a spear, we try to address that trauma as quick as we can here, and then get them on a boat to get downriver, because he really could do more than we can. But yes, we try to help with medical needs as much as possible. Helping to meet practical needs is one of the best ways to establish relationship and love the people well, and it served us well over the past few years here. For our family, we've had some crazy things. And my appendix ruptured while I was here in country. My wife had dengue fever. I get malaria, at least 6 times a year. My little boy has some really bad allergies, and the molds and mildews and constant smoke and from fires here definitely do that. But we've got things to address each one of those things. So
that's how that goes. So I saw the one picture I have of you guys. You're in this river with your kids. You're swimming or something. You have them. I put that picture up because I'm looking at it going, what in the heck lives in that freaking river right there?
We also ask that a lot, but we try to just we try not to think about it too hard. And we're right on a part of the river that's really swift moving. So if anything that's really big in there wants to come after us, it's got to do some work to get there. But that river, we live in a very humid and hot
place, and that river is our salvation oftentimes. So when we can play in that river and get in there, we do it at every chance we can. The risk is worth the reward at that point, for sure. So
yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's it like for water now? Do you have water for purification stuff for yourself, or do you use rainwater, or how does that? Do you collect rainwater? Is that drinkable, or what's that look like?
We collect rainwater in 2,000-gallon tanks, and then we run them through a purifier, and that's how we do our drinking water. All of our power. I mean, our houses are powered. We have 24-hour energy. The sun never stops shining here. And so, yeah, we definitely have the power that we need to run the tools that we have here, whether it's the SAT dish or whether it's the computers that we're working on. We have the power and the resources to do that. So changing out battery systems, changing out those things and maintaining those things is what's required of us at that point. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that I think that's a good thing. I'm hoping that anybody's listening that can get a kind of a feel for, wow, what we have. Because I'm telling you right now, when our electricity goes out for 8 hours because of fires, we're losing it, right? We're losing our mind, right?
Right.
And so,
listen, folks living in America, man, everybody's privileged to live there. I'm privileged to be an American citizen. If worse comes to worse, if everything goes sideways here, I go home to America, right? I don't have to live here in New Guinea. All these folks here, all these citizens here, they do. So anybody living in America, anybody listening, man, be super grateful, super thankful. We're all privileged to be American citizens, right? And so, with that, it's a different type of a life. It's it's living there is a little bit different. And sometimes we take it for granted. And I would just encourage folks, man, when you have to, wake up in the middle of the night to see your kid sick and you literally know no plane is coming for you, no doctor's coming, no boats can move at night. Like when those things are going on, it just gives you a whole different respect. When you're flying in your food, it gives you a whole different respect. And man, I would just encourage folks. It's not like a less than, more than thing. It's not a haves and have-nots. It's just, man, look at the way that God is looking after each one of you there in America, and just be grateful for it. Not everybody's living the same way, just encourage you to. Think about folks in other countries and specifically, if you think about the Rees family, just know that, that we are living off grid. We're living, away from civilization, away from everything, the comforts of America, really just to make sure that the Pei people get a chance to hear the truth of God's word. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. It just goes to prove again that God will protect, and He will protect His warriors. It's just what He is.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, it's just awesome. So one thing that I thought that we should hit on as we're kind of closing on the hour, but I know that you rely on donations and that such to be able to continue your work in what you're doing out there, and supplies and stuff like that. So
sure.
Tell me a way that people can see you, where they can kind of look, and maybe there's somebody here that would like to have a donation
sure.
to you, or do on a monthly basis a donation. I think even after we talk, I think when I'm done with this today, I think the studio itself will become a monthly, provider for you. I think that we're just
That's
going
awesome.
to make it a monthly thing. We'll put a picture of you up, and we'll put you out, your family and stuff up here in the studio, and make
That's
it
awesome.
that we should be doing that anyway, and supporting you that way. So what's a website that somebody can go to look at your work and maybe want to contribute that way? What are we looking at there?
Yeah. So yeah, everything we do here, we're raising our own finances. We're not getting paid by an organization or anything. Everything that comes in for us goes to us. But we work with an organization called Ethnos 360, and that's ETHNOS 360 .org. And so if you go to Ethnos 360 and you click on the missionaries tab, you can just type in Justin Rees, and that'll pop up. I think there's a link on your Facebook, and we'll get a link hooked up there too. But yeah, if anybody's wanting to donate, yes, my family's been here 10 years. In 2020 we actually taught foundationally from Genesis to Revelation. And we saw a little church born here. There's about 12 people that are believing that Jesus is, in fact, what we call the guy who bought back the road. And he was the guy that bought back the road to God. And there's 12 people here in Pei that are believing that. And we meet regularly as a little church. A lot of people would hear that, hey, the gospel got presented and that's great. Is it time to come home? For us, it's not. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the Pei people just got their black belt and there's continued training that's needed. So we're going to stay here and disciple. And so in a lot of ways, our work has just begun after 10 years, teaching these believers how to walk and live the normal Christian life. And so, anybody who wants to support, anybody who wants to be a part of that and continue to see the Pei Church grow, man, we'd love and appreciate that. And and for folks that have popped on just to hear and see and catch up, man, so grateful that you did. And Master Cox, thanks so much for providing this opportunity. Thanks for your love and support. And we've not felt anything but love from you guys there. So
yeah, well, you're part of this family, man. You've been around me for a very long time, and watching what you do, you're definitely a beast out in that world. So so I don't know. So Justin, is it light out there yet or not?
Oh man, you know what? I think we're still in darkness. We were wanting. Yeah, I mean, I'm in pitch
See, you're
black
still dark, huh?
still.
Yeah, I was hoping
I was
that
wanting
people.
to
So
be
I'll
able to
tell
see
you
the
what.
jungle and
What you do, Justin. What you do is get some fresh. You have. By the way, you guys are on. Justin, you are on Facebook, right? You just go to Justin Rees, and you can find you, and
Yep.
you message,
so
and you have the ability to communicate. So all of our old guys, you guys reach out to Justin. He's on my friends list. You guys can find him on under Justin Rees, and we can go there, and we'll see what we can do here at the studio. Maybe we'll do a tournament in your honor or something here before the year's out, and we'll take some of the proceeds and we'll donate it to your it's not really your cause, it's Jesus's cause. We'll see what we can do. I mean, it's pretty it's pretty awesome just to think that you went somewhere, don't know the language, so you have to learn the language, then you have to learn how to write the language, then you have to translate the language, then you have to write the Bible in that language. I mean, come on. Okay. I mean, it just takes a special human being, dude. I don't know.
The fighter in me, man, has just really, really been taken to task on this one. I mean, this is the hardest thing. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Had I known what was involved at the beginning, I probably would have chickened out. But since I got my back, put up against the wall at each situation, I think the fighter in me is just kind of come out swinging, and with that, the good news is I think anybody could do this. Anybody could do this if they're willing to fight through the hard stuff. So if you're not, you couldn't. But if you're willing to fight through the hard stuff, you could do it. And it just I think it just takes that level of fighter. So I've got some great coworkers. They're all in America right now. I got a coworker in Illinois. I got a coworker in Oklahoma. Miss and love those guys. They're fighters too.
they all have faced all kinds of similar circumstances. They've all had to learn language. They've all had to learn how to read and write it. They've all had to teach individuals to read and write it. They've all been a part of the Bible translation. They've all been a part of Bible teaching. I couldn't do it without that team. There's a team here in country that's supporting us. They pack our groceries on the airplane. Those guys are fighters. And man, I mean, it's not just Lauren and I and Pax and Paisley out here doing it. We have a whole team behind us. We've got individuals in America. We've got churches in America that send us finances each and every month. They're fighting through it. And there's a huge community of people trying to see these Pei people, grow in maturity and to see a healthy, functional New Testament church here in Pei. So, yeah, man, we'd love to invite you guys to be a part of it. And yeah, I'm just super thankful for this opportunity. I can't believe the internet's worked this well through this whole thing too. So that never happened,
well,
so.
Right. It's pretty, it's mind blowing as it is. So I think those are some really good words, to kind of take to task and end on. And, just so those guys are listening, we got some fun ones coming up. I've got Blake Foster's coming up next week. And then I got Mr. Farbor's, my Hapkido instructor's coming on, which will be a good one here. But I've been looking forward to this one. So for a long time, just for people to get kind of a sense of what it's really like to listen to somebody that is really out there in a real beast mode, okay, and with their family, because that. It is what it is, man. And watching you as from a little kid to what you are now, you definitely are the warrior. Number 38. Now we're going to put it out there. We'll make sure, Justin, that this studio, you send me a little, I think you sent me, is it the same website you sent me the other night?
Yeah.
That I put in the link?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll do that again. And by the way, if you go to my website, here's the thing. This is all on video right now, but I also do audio of everything that we've just done on my actual audio podcast. And so if you go to www.markcox.com, that is actually my podcast website. And all these, once I download this and stuff like that, it'll be on the audio format. So people, sometimes it's hard to watch the video. So I have everything I've done on audio also. So you'll be able to, and I'll send you links to that. You can send out to your people that may have missed this, that they can go ahead and listen to. I'm on most podcast sites, Apple, Spotify, all that. If you go look up, Mark Cox podcast, you'll find it. And then I'll be able to, Christopher Jones just put this up for you. That's the website right there, that Ethos 360 right Missionaries, Justin and Lauren Rees. Christopher Jones just put that up for you. And so I want to make sure that, we come behind you and you have a team that back here that's pushing you forward when you need it. And maybe next time you come back, I don't know, maybe you want to do a little rematch.
Freedom rematch,
it would. I mean, it's not going to take long for you to win that match. You know what I mean? So,
first one didn't go but a minute 22. But who's counting? All right,
all right. Well, and I want to thank everybody. We had a good, consistent 20 to 28 people on this line this whole entire time listening to you. Cool. You'll be able to go back and look at all the comments, and you can go ahead and revert back to them and thank them for their stuff there, Justin. Tell your family, tell your babies now. Mr. Cox is looking forward to teaching them again. I did get to teach them when they came out.
I will, man.
So
I told them I was going to be on a podcast with you, and they were like, "Are you going to be podcast famous?" I was like, "Pretty much, yeah." I mean, after being with Master Cox, podcast famous. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to get podcast famous. So anybody that's out there that can help that go along, that would be great. Good reviews and subscribing to the podcast, that all helps me out. So
right on.
You know what I mean? So I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
We love you out here. We'll
likewise.
We'll end this here. And tell everybody out in Papua New Guinea, hello, and we love them. Tell your family.
Yeah,
all right.
will do. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. All right. You there, Justin?
Yeah.
Okay. The broadcast is that they ended broadcast now. So that was good. That was hour 9 minutes. That's perfect. I think it ended really well. I'll have all this stuff for you, dude. I'll have it by evening time.